So it's first of all, I wanted to say thanks for making this happen, and this is the first episode of something completely brand new. It might work, might not work. We're just doing this for fun. I'm going to edit this later on, so this you might not even hear that. But welcome to the. Go ahead, Nabil.
Edge Grip Podcast.
Edge Grip Podcast, which is a brand new podcast that is all about motorcycle road racing and a little bit of street riding, not too much.
And bikes.
And bikes.
Bikes.
And I want to say it's just a trip being here, recording the first episode, looking at Nicky Hayden's old racing suit and surrounded by just legendary equipment and legendary race motorcycles from the master himself. How many times tuner of the year? 4, 5, 6?
Three
Three
that I remember.
And just legendary riders going through your hypercycle race team, right? So we're here with the legend himself, Kerry Andrew.
Woo!
Tell us a good story.
I just want to say thank you guys for coming by and spending the day with me at Hypercycle.
So yeah, I usually live in Las Vegas. Nabil, you live in Encino, right? And it's a rare moment that I showed up in the valley because I used to live here. I had some other business in the valley, and then I was like, yeah, I can't miss a trip to the shop, especially since you have my motorcycle at your shop right now, waiting to be rebuilt. But let's talk a little bit about what you're working on right now.
I am building a couple of GSXR 2005 GSXR 1000 engines for guys that race cars, little cars in the dirt, and preparing the Phillip Island bikes. Just wanted to finish them all up and assemble them so all the pieces are in place and that they don't get lost and misplaced. I also have a brand new GSXR 1000 I got to build for you. So I've got it all apart, but I'm waiting for an engine stand that I can borrow from friends that will make life easier for me. Plus, I want to take a little time to make a little room on the benches, on the engine benches. I also am working on a dual engine Sorcerer history for Russ Collins project. I'm putting together the two engines that went into the Sorcerer. I am at the moment taking a short break. We finished the lower ends, but I got to start on the top ends. They are just a little bit tight. I'm talking about the bottom ends, so I took a break until I have a chance to decipher what that means, or maybe that is the way they have it. But anyway, I will get back to it as soon as I make some more room in the engine room benches.
So you're basically living the life. You're not accepting any commercial customers. If someone comes in, for an oil change, you're gonna, show them the way out and have them go to another shop. You're just doing what you want to do, which is pretty much what all of us want to do.
Well, you're watching me smile, and yes, you're right. That's just the way I like it. I'm having a great time here working by myself with all these beautiful and wonderful machinery and tools that I have, and I'm just, like you said, living the life. I can't wait to get out there and have some more quality riding time. I try to do Tuesday dirt bike rides and Saturday, Sunday, or Sunday mostly, some canyon rides on my Bandit. So I'm having a good time. Thank you for asking.
All right. By the way, for the Weira folks, I just wanted to say he's not touching the engine, so there's no need to check in tech inspection anything. There's nothing to see here, folks. Why are you laughing, Nabil?
No, I'm just because I know you're fast, so I don't think that's going to make a big difference.
I used to be fast. Now I just take my time.
I mean, so, Kerry, coming here feels like walking into a museum. You got so many things hanging around and bikes in there. You want to give us a little tour of memory lane?
I don't really know where to start, but I have a few stints into this business. Started out as a writer, and before I retired, I have some wins back here at Daytona. I had three-hour wins in a row as an endurance team that we won a national championship, and that meant a lot to me at the time. It really taught me how to ride well, and the endurance racing, you get a chance to ride over and over and over the same scenario, and you improve. So that contributed to my development as a writer. Unfortunately, I ran out of time and family issues, and then I had to switch careers, and I became a tuner. I had been building and tuning all of my bikes prior to that, so I had a pretty good idea what to do. I hooked up with the EBSCO team originally, and then we won the championship with that. That was the 1 hour Super Teams Championship. We had people like Doug Poland, Dale Quarterly, and other very notable riders riding a motorcycle, and we sort of put the kibosh on the Arium team, and they were dominating at the time, and we beat them with a G6R 1100 that wasn't supposed to even get on the podium. So we felt good about that. Yeah, we felt really good about that. That was a big, heavy bike. By the time I was done with it, they had no chance. But anyway, I love doing the modified scenarios where when you're done, you smile. And so it's been a good time for me. I've been very happy with the products that have turned out.
So for us that have know nothing about this, when we take our bikes to a tuning or a performance tuning, we think, well, it's going to put it on the dyno, tweak the map, there's a given recipe for each bike model, and it's just cut, copy, and paste in a sense. And I have sensing walking around this place that's a little more complicated than that. What's like the big challenge when you get a bike to work on like that?
I like hearing from my rider his interpretation. Often I will ask the same question 2 or 3 different ways, and then I need certain information back for me to reach a proper conclusion about what's going on. What I found is that most riders have a different approach and a different experience level with the feedback. So sometimes it is necessary to ask the same question 3 or 4 different ways, just so you can confirm that the information they're giving you is the one that's really happening. So it is very important to make the rider happy and give him all of the tools and make him comfortable with what he's got to work with. So that is always my goal. I know my equipment is usually good enough to handle the challenge, so I focus on that.
And so, as riders, how should we think about learning how to give feedback? Because I know that's an important part. And I remember being on the track with people saying, well, give us some feedback. How's the bike feel when you go do your suspension tuning, right? And I don't know what to tell them. I'm like, it's fine. It's turning. It's accelerating. I still suck, but no difference. So what do the average riders need to think about when they want to talk to somebody who's helping them?
At our level that we usually present a effort, I don't really want my rider focusing on feedback. I would like for him to focus on writing and do everything that he can while he's doing that and focus 100% on what he's doing. I believe that it's our job later to download him. And so I want to hear answers to the questions I ask rather than have him tell me something that he feels is the answer. So I would rather, and when I say he, I mean the writer. And I've also had Elena Myers writing for me, so I shouldn't be leaving the female gender out of this. And I got to say, Elena Myers had given me some of the best feedback I've ever had. So it is important to decipher the information in a particular way. If somebody's telling you something, but you don't really understand what they're telling you, I mean, it could be just a little bit off, and you do the wrong thing, So you're going in the wrong direction. So I want to make sure I go in the right direction the first time. I've had some very good coaches in the suspension tuning. I've worked with Jim Lindemann very closely, and from my perception, that man was a phenom, and he was fantastic at what he did. I was happy to be around him and observe his talent.
He did my last K6, right? And that thing was awesome. And he used to smile every time he'd see me on the track and say, "Hey, I remember that bike." It was, I think, one of the last bikes he ever finished before.
It's true that, yeah. It was a big loss losing Jim, but
He was a good guy.
sooner or later we're all going to follow him. Hopefully not too soon. I
not
still
too
have
soon,
plans
yeah.
to fun. Still have, yeah.
What do you think about Rossi finally retiring? And who did you cheer for when he was competing against Nicky?
Well, I was always rooting for Nicky. It had to be Nicky all the way, and I was very disappointed when Danny took him out on that one race, and then I observed that Honda finally put their foot down and got all their riders to support and help Nicky win the championship, and I was very happy about that. So it goes without say that Rossi is so a big phenom and very, very important to the sport, and we all know that. None of us have taken that for granted, and we love what he's done for the sport and his contributions. I am particularly fond of Marc Marquez's riding. I was there his first race at Laguna Seca, and I watched him very closely, and that man can ride. So I know Rossi discovered then and there that he can ride also, and I just get terrific entertainment from watching Marc ride. Everybody else is up to par nowadays, and his last 2 years where he was injured, so everybody else has come a long way, but I still see that Marc will have a dominant performance here and there when he comes back.
Okay, so Marc Marquez versus Dune in his heyday. Same bike.
You know, these questions are being posed all the time, and people try to compare old stars versus new stars. And I really don't think that it's a fair or reasonable comparison. The problem is that back then, the traction control and everything else was really in your wrist. And so nowadays, it's all in the hands of the tuners and the programmers, and they allow you a certain amount of traction, slippage, and it's totally different from what it was back in the day. So the guys that are able to use the least amount of throttle inhibition actually end up doing the best. And so Marquez is usually pretty well known for having the craziest slides.
Yeah, with the high sides.
Yeah. So he likes having a little more freedom on his traction control.
So do you think if we turn everything off right now in MotoGP, can Rossi do another 10 years?
It might be harder for him now. The one phenomenal thing about Rossi is he went through many development stages to keep up with the field. He started out with everything being in his wrist. He adapted, and then Dorna went in and changed everything, and he adapted to that. So from my perception, the man is incredible. Too bad he aged.
He aged.
I'd
Like all of us.
I'd like to see him put in 10 more good years, as in near the front.
You know, it could be the vaccine.
Oh.
You had to go there.
I had to go there. It's the internet. We can say whatever we want.
So, yeah.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Yeah, 125s, 250s, 500s, 800s, 1000s, and then 1000s with electronics. He pretty much went through it all.
Yes, so that is a sign of a very adaptable rider who has a lot of talent. So nobody could take that away from him ever. And he's a star that he deserves to be.
Yeah.
He's got the talent.
Do you think we have Americans right now to go up there and on the world stage?
I'm sure we do. The problem is that we don't have a program good enough to accelerate the youngsters to come along. Well, I do hear some that there's a new class coming with that will address that with Motoamerica, and I'm very happy to see that. I know that MotoGP and Motoamerica are committed to making the sport grow and develop the American side of it. So I'm hoping to see some young talent develop and be able to present itself against the competition in Europe. So can't wait, but they do have an advantage. They have some very nice academies out there, and they have some very good riders that are influencing the new and upcoming youngsters that they have to work with.
Yeah, we do need something like the VR46 Academy over here.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So I've tried approaching Kevin and Wayne on the issue, and they are both reluctant to really do something on their own. They're very concerned about liability issues in America, which obviously they don't necessarily face back in Europe, but here they do. So I understand the shortcomings that they face that way. So I hope it's somehow resolved, and I hope that we end up with a quality academy. I know we still have some very, 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 very wonderful champions from back in the day, and I'd love to see them contribute to the youngsters and really make them accelerate their learning curve.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the shortage even in Motoamerica races where, almost half the grid is not from the U.S., right? And
yes,
it's just we have so much potential here, and people would rather, not that I'm knocking down football or baseball or basketball, but if someone can put an attention on that sport, and we just get a fraction of the people that would otherwise go see a bowl game, just come in and buy a ticket to a motorcycle race, just help the sport out. We'll be number one, just like the '80s.
It was a very great event. Racing was a very big thing back in the day, and we as Americans had our own ways, and lots of us built our own bikes and we participated. That wasn't happening in Europe at the time, but they completely skipped that part. And so they went to from machinery at the very low level that way to what they have now. Basically, the factories are really making them shine, and they are definitely they have the ability to get the most out of those bikes. So we are a step behind. We used to be in the lead, and we've lost that. And it is my opinion that we can get it back if we want to.
Yeah,
so
agree. Totally agree.
Commitment is necessary, and for the time being, commitment is absent.
So what puzzles me a little bit, especially your comment about liability and the issue of setting up maybe development schools, motocross is doing great. Lots of attendance, lots of youngsters, excellent level, same level of risk in a sense, but road racing somehow seems to have been left in the dust there.
I think we're talking about apples and oranges. The supercross, motocross riders are training by themselves in the off season, but they're doing it by themselves, or they're responsible for their own training programs. So they attend whatever they feel is the best program for themselves. It's not like we have academies for them, but we do have trainers, people that are accomplished in the field that work with them. We have a similar scenario in road racing. Some of the accomplished riders of yesteryear are training or coaching some of the riders of today, but it's not an academy. An academy is where you basically have students, and they sit there and they learn everything that they need to know, not just bits and pieces. They actually learn everything. They learn the way of life of a racer. And I think that's important, because then you can put everything in the proper perspective as a racer.
Right. And from the attendees' perspective, Americans love NASCAR, Indy a little less, right? Motocross a lot, road racing a little less. Do you have a sense of why there's this dichotomy where, you go to Spain, and if you're a motorcycle road racer, you're a god?
Well, they don't grow up with it like in Europe, right? And there's not enough. You don't see enough motorcycles on the road. In Europe, you go to any European city, it's all scooters, right? And it's all
Yeah.
motorcycles. Over here, you don't see them because the roads are not, they're not safe for motorcycles here. So I don't even ride on the road. You don't ride on the road.
Right.
Carrie just does a little bit of
Canyons. Your question was about why there's a difference between our sports. And so the main reason is expense. So when we started in the 70s, we were building our own bikes. We literally could do it for dollars. Now you can't even buy tires for what we used in the whole year. So the tires are something that we used to use for maybe 2-3 races or something of that nature. And that gives you an idea of what the expense factor is. So road racing, you drop it once and you got to rebuild the bike. It's a lot of parts and a lot of body work. Motocross, you drop it, you just pick it up and you go again. So the expense factor is big. The next thing that's on that same level of importance is what we have to work with. The factories over time have taken all of the building and tuning responsibilities for themselves. They build and they tune. They send us race bikes and we basically have turned into parts changers. So we're working with the race bikes that they send us and we work within the parameters that they allow us to work with. We don't have the MotoGP hardware. And we can't compete at that level. We can't get practice at that level. So all we have is the approach. So we can approach to keep on training in this way and try to make ourselves as good as we can under these conditions.
Right. If I'm a kid and I want to train on Moto 2, good luck getting a bike and being able to afford it.
Right.
Yeah, you need your entire family behind you.
But you're not even going to get the ride if you don't have the potential. So
Right.
Cameron Boubier is making me proud. I watch him ride, and I can't believe how much he's improved and how committed he is to making this work. And he's truly making it work, and I'm very proud of him. I wish him the best.
Yeah, I mean, and adapting to Moto 2 from Superbike it's not an easy task. It's a completely different chassis, completely different engine, and it's not a road bike that's been built. It's a very stiff chassis with very little power, and you need to figure out how to put that bike up straight and not lean it over, which is pretty tough, especially considering you're racing with another 20 guys that are as good as you.
It's amazing how close and tight the racing is in the Moto 2 and Moto 3, and this is where you're developing the riders that will be the stars of tomorrow. And this is the part that we need to be involved in.
Yeah.
And it sucks that we're not, but it is what it is. So if nobody steps up and changes the situation or improves it in some way, it's going to be a long struggle.
I think that the two of us, Nabil, as someone and as people that are involved in trying to get customers, right, for our businesses, I feel like American motorcycle road racing needs to take the same steps that any company does with the marketing, right? To acquire more customers. You're building a market, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a case where we come in and say, oh, we have a market cap of, $2 billion and let's just capitalize on it. It's a case where we create a customer, right? Just like, Ronald McDonald creates customers, right? They start young and they get you like that. And I think this is what's lacking in Motoamerica or in AMA, the approach of let's go get the customer, let's create a market niche and go after them aggressively.
Yeah, I think if I can fold the approach a little bit is everything Motoamerica is doing is very attractive to racers and people who already love motorcycles. There's not a lot of outgoing effort to people who are outside that world. So Formula One, for example, was a surprise, right? Nobody knew about Formula One in the US. 5 years ago, you asked somebody and you said Formula One, they thought it was like a dishwasher liquid or something. Now, I went to Austin, was a couple of months ago. It was the highest attendance they've ever had in spite of COVID. Because Drive to Survive, the series, got a lot of people excited about looking at it. I know the kids, for example, in our family were looking at it and saying, "Oh, I like the sport." They won't watch a race, but they'll watch the series. So there's a series coming up on Amazon, which I hope is going to at least get people here more attuned to motorcycle racing. And that may be a little bit the gateway drug if you think about it. But I think what Motoamerica should be doing is doing something similar here to get it to be popular with people who don't know anything about it. And get more people to come in. That's what we do in business. Yeah. Right? People don't know your product. They don't know what you sell, why it's good, why it's fun. And you just have to make an extra effort to get them to understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
What I have to contribute to that is that Motoamerica is fairly young in this industry, as a entity. So I do believe that they're making steps in the right direction, and they probably need a little bit of help in this area, and they probably should seek it. But I think they're very young, and they are evolving, and they will eventually get there.
And they're trying new things like the Bagger series.
Yes,
I mean, they're going after brand new customers, but those customers are already motorcycle fans, right?
True, but at the same time, I like the level of commitment. I know that they're committed, and they want to do as much as they can to make this sport grow. So maybe they're a little bit inexperienced in the field. Maybe they're not. I don't really know enough to really make a proper comment on that, but I do know that they are trying very hard to get there.
And hats off to Wayne for just, starting it. Because I remember when NASCAR bought AMA and it just botched it and killed it. And we had nothing for a couple of years except that shootout. Remember that shootout from Ulrich? He had a few rounds that were
Formula
like super.
USA?
Yeah, no, it was called Superbike Shootout, and they only did 3 rounds, and Josh Hayes, I think, won that. And we had nothing for a while until Wayne, did something, and so hats off to him.
Yes, for him to take this on and to put his all into it is terrific. A world champion like him to put his all into it is a terrific thing for us. So between him, Freddie, Eddie, the King, we have had some of the best riders in the world, and it all happened before anybody else. And that talent doesn't go away. I just am disappointed that it's not being handed down to the younger generations.
And the younger generations are none of us, right?
We're not younger anymore.
We don't fit the...
We might be the last generation of motorcycle racing.
Yeah, millennials are not into it, are they?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Maybe Motoamerica should have their logos and things and do like a Fortnite equivalent, like, a road racing game. Because you look at the kids now, they're spending 20, 30 hours a week playing video games and doing homework, and that's it. They don't go outside.
Just start with the sharing economy, right? Just split the race bike between multiple people.
That too. Yeah. Well, the rent-a-bike programs are very attractive. Like, I want to take the kids dirt riding, and you can go here to Gorman and for like $150 you get the bike, the equipment, and everything else. You just show up and ride. Yeah. And that's a great way to do it. I'm not ready to commit 20 grand to buying everybody dirt bikes and equipment, and if they are going to use it once. Yeah, and so that sharing economy is a really good idea.
Video games, right? I mean, they can start a video game for Motoamerica and put it in every kid's hand. Yeah. They can start at school, right? They can approach schools and say, hey, we have a program. Hey, work with us, right? There's a lot of things you can do as a company to acquire more customers that don't know about.
Yeah. They almost need a marketing partner, I would think.
We should take over.
Knows how to do this.
We should take over. Go ahead, Nabil. You're already running half the world.
Oh, God.
How many companies? 6, 7?
No, one right now.
One? Just one? What happened?
2. Well, 2.
2?
2, yeah. I got busy. We're mono-talent, unlike Kerry here, who's multi-talented.
Yeah. We push very hard. Very hard.
Yes.
We do great battle in the marketplace.
So going back a little bit to the World Championship scene, so we have Cam, Joe, and now SDK in Moto 2.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I'm rooting for Cam. It's obvious you have some very, very good guys in front of him, and it's difficult to really expect for Cam to be beating them, but I have a feeling that some of the front runners are going to be going to MotoGP. That might make it easier for him. I'd love to see him get to the top of the class.
Is he on the right equipment?
It seems like it's close enough. I'm sure that his equipment could be a little bit better, as in he is not at the front consistently, but he has had some stints up front. So it can't be too far. I'm talking about his equipment, but maybe it isn't all the way up there, and some of it is him, and maybe he's getting a little bit more out of the equipment than the equipment is capable of giving him. Because I watched him carefully and closely at Coda, and I know that he knows that track very well, and that is to his advantage. So I haven't really had a chance to see him that close in the European tracks, but I know he took care of business at Coda.
Yeah, yeah. We haven't seen SDK race there, so that's going to be interesting. I saw him once. He came to Auto Club.
Okay.
And he got on a 600 and ran like a ridiculous 124 or some time you wouldn't think would be
On
possible on a 600. And he sounds very talented.
The fastest I ever seen someone ride there was Ben Spies versus Matt Mladen in 2007, I think, and they were running 123s.
Yeah.
A 124 and a 600 is pretty good.
Yeah.
So... big leap, though, again, from American or Japanese 600s to Moto 2.
Yeah. What do you think about Gagne? Gagne taking everything. Easy.
Well, he's on a very good bike, and he's got a very good team that's got a lot of experience, and obviously he's got a lot of talent. So when you have a good, accomplished team, it's easy to recruit the good riders.
But he had Elias as a teammate for a round, right? And he had
Josh Herrin. Yeah, Josh is great.
Is he really
we
great?
Need more Joshes.
Is he really great, or is he flamboyant and then at the end he doesn't deliver?
But that's what makes it great. I don't think he's that consistent. So there's ups and downs. He's a brilliant rider, but he's like a little bit like Rossi. He's a little more brilliant marketer. Yeah. And the sport needs more people like that, because he's out there, he's doing different things, he's funny, he's charismatic, and you need those characters in the sport. I mean, Rossi did a lot of good to MotoGP, and Herrin, I mean, now he's sponsored by a friend of mine, actually, Fresh and Lean, and he's actually bringing them a lot of business with his voice. So he's the kind of guy that needs to be out there. When we talk about Motoamerica doing an effort in doing better marketing, they should probably ask him to go out there and talk to all the kids and get them excited, and maybe run like little bike programs and so on, because that's the kind of personality that will win you fans.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think you're right.
His family setting back in Georgia, they have a little track on their property there that he practices and races, so they could easily add some youngsters to that group.
We're gonna have to talk to him about that.
Yes.
So you've seen hundreds of riders. Who's the most talented except for Nabil? Who did you look at that was coming up and say, this guy, they have it?
I saw that in Nicky. I watched him ride the year before he hooked up with us, and it seemed like he was able to ride that motorcycle like no one I'd seen before. So he impressed me a lot, and he just needed a little bit of he needed to combine his program, or he needed to make his program whole. He needed to finish the race completely rather than just do sections of really, really good and then run off the track here and there. So
that's how you do it. That's how you get to the limit, right? You need to run off the track a few times to figure out where the limit is.
He was always looking for the limit. So he rounded off really nicely, and he showed his good stuff to many people and the world.
You shall be missed, brother.
Well,
he is missed. I look at his suit hanging here, and it makes me all emotional.
Me too. He's a great person. I miss him so much. It was always good to see him at the racetrack, get a smile and talk a little bit. So we got to wait for the next one.
Yep.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Somewhere in the U.S. there's a little kid that is playing a video game and says to himself, I can do it in real life. Daddy, can I get a motorcycle? And that's how it starts.
Yeah, and as long as mommy lets him,
yeah,
that would be. I have a little NSR sitting in the garage. Mommy doesn't let.
My mom didn't really have a choice. I didn't ask my mom. I just came home one day with a 50cc Derby Jumbo, 1984 Derby Jumbo, and rode that thing and then traded it in for a Fantic 50cc Fantic Caballero. I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
And it had a Fantic competition engine, so it had a 10 horsepower engine instead of the regular 8 horsepower. And that's how I started.
See, you were braver than me. I didn't defy the orders. I waited until I was 38. And my first bike was a Harley Fat Boy.
Oh,
So, good bike to learn on.
Yeah, I was 14, and license age in Israel was 16, and I obviously rode without a license. And once I got my 50cc license, obviously I upgraded to a 1979 Yamaha XS400, which also I didn't have a license for. So that was a nice story, and I crashed every which way, every bike.
Yeah, maybe I didn't have the balls, because that was the thing to do when you were in high school. I was dying to get a little scooter because that's how you got the girls. And I fought with my parents and lost and never got the scooter. And I was so traumatized, it took me another 18 years of like being an independent professional to get on it.
I just said, hey, I like motorcycles. And I remember reading about back then, it was the 85 Gixxer when it came out. And I was like, oh, I want this, right? And, in Israel, it's, you're a little 14-year-old kid, and I want a Gixxer 750, and my mom was like, "You're not getting this." So I showed her. I got the 1000.
Yeah, in Lebanon it was the war, so we had no money. So
okay.
you could, if you could afford, there was a company called Passol, Passol, and they had those little 50cc scooters. You could only get 2 colors, white and red, and if you had one, you were the man on campus. And unfortunately, I didn't get my parents to make the plunge there. I did sneak in a couple of rides from friends on their bikes, and I felt like I was transgressing dramatically.
You should come down to my house. So just for everybody that listens that think that peace doesn't exist, I'm from Israel. Nabil, you're from
Lebanon.
There you go, neighbors.
Well, you can't cross from one country to the other, probably still. And they're officially at war, but we're probably 100 miles from each other's houses.
Nobody wants war. It's gonna end. I mean, the next generation is just gonna understand that it's stupid.
I think they get it.
It's just idiotic.
Yeah, talking to them, I think they get it. I hope they do.
well, to what you guys said, I'm going to add that I'm actually from Bulgaria, also very close to where you are. And my first ride was I was probably 13, and I had borrowed more or less stole my uncle's Simca scooter. So
French, right?
It's German.
Simca is German?
I believe so. And so I did that a few times. I used to spend the summers with my grandma in a different city. So I would borrow and whenever I can try to ride it. And there's been more than one time where he came home and I wasn't back yet, and Grandma would send him on an errand till I got back. So I was very lucky that way, but that's all I had. I never had anything on my own until I came to this country. So my first bike was an SL100, and I didn't really do much with that, but then the next bike was an SL300, 350 that is, and I still have it here. And that's the bike that got me started on everything that I am. So I learned to road race on it. I learned to drag race on it. And I had a fabulous blast. And I used to wheelie it past the what we called the narcs, the people that would try to keep you from leaving the campus at high school. I went to Hollywood High School. We had an open campus, and there was always these couple of guys that kind of recognized everybody and took their names down, and then you had to do some kind of cleanup somewhere to make up for it. But eating lunch outside was so much more fun, especially when you wheelied right for the guy and he had to jump out of the way.
Oh yeah, it's a freedom thing. We had a little crack in the fence in my high school. You could lift one of the rods of the fence and sneak out. We would go across the street and buy the exact same candy you could buy inside the school, but it tasted so much better when you snuck out and bought it outside that store.
That's
Freedom, baby.
Yep. Those are the freedoms that we grew up with and that are not necessarily here anymore. And I'm feeling sorry for the new ones, for the newcomers, but the youngsters.
You hear that truck in the background? Just for everyone, we're in Kara's shop right now, so there's some background noise from the street.
So you mentioned something about equipment you start on. Obviously, I didn't start on the right bike for road racing, but I did it even worse the second time because I could. My first bike was a full Motoamerica bike. Right, I took the California Superbike, which I thought was a driver improvement course. I had no idea because I just wanted to ride better on the street. And it was great because they had like very basic techniques on how to do certain things, very simple, and it gave you a good sense of what to look for when you get on the track.
They didn't convert you to Scientology, did they?
No.
Okay.
They tried,
All right.
and I was just not smart enough or too resistant. But
I'll do whatever Tom Cruise does, so...
yeah, exactly. So hot.
I know, right? The guy can jump off airplanes, land, in the middle of a field, and a helicopter comes in, and he does everything himself. So
Yeah, he does do his stunts. Yeah. But where I was going with this is, then I got a Motoamerica bike, and it was set up for a Motoamerica racer. And I took a couple of coaching lessons back in the days from Jason Pridmore, and he was laughing and saying, "Well, why did you get this bike?" I said, "Because I can." But he said, "Just go get a stock bike off the showroom floor. You will learn to get the feeling, and then you can grow the bike with you as you go faster." And I remember for a while I didn't listen, obviously, and the bike broke like flat. It wouldn't even dive because it was set up at a spring rate and a setting that was for Motoamerica racer. I'm going 80 miles an hour slower on a straight, and there was no feel. And so that's good advice for people is, start modest because that's actually how you learn better than starting with the best bike you can get. And it lowers the price of entry.
Yeah, and it's fun riding a slow bike fast, right? Instead of riding a fast bike slow.
I actually regret not starting on a 300. Now I would do it a different way.
Well, there's a little more to it than that. So if you ever have the aspirations of becoming a top-notch rider, you have to learn to work with what you have. When the race starts, this is the bit you're going to ride. So he who can adapt the best, because it's very seldom that you actually have a perfectly tuned bike for the entire track. So he who can adapt the best ends up doing the best. So when you start out on a motorcycle that is deficient in some way, you learn to overcome deficiencies and ride around them. Or if everything is perfect, the moment something goes wrong, you're spoiled.
Right.
So
we call it a Biaggi. Pulling a Biaggi.
So for me, it's important that you start out and on something, like you said, humble, and just work your way past it.
Yeah, and it's more fun. I mean, I wish I started on a 300 because the pressure on a 600, the bike goes faster. So now you're kind of over your head and you got this stress of, I got to keep up with the bike more than the other way around. You start modest. I rode a 300 after 10 track days of being on a 600, and it was so much more fun because I was able to control the bike. I felt like that was an easy task, and it made the track day more fun. So, and if it's not fun, it's a punishment. You're not going to stick with it.
Yeah.
So one more argument into starting humble, I think there.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to talk MotoGP?
MotoGP.
Who's your favorite?
Next
year.
Not my strongest. Okay, I'm still rooting for Mark.
I'm still trying to figure out.
I think if he does not have any physical problems or whatever his sight issue is, I think he's the man.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out what Aprilia is doing there.
I think I'm very happy to see all of them contributing. The KTM, the Aprilia, the Ducati, and the Yamahas are very, very good. Obviously, the Honda is very good, even though it's tuned to one or two individuals.
But I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, right? I'm happy to see everybody participating, but as someone that had two RSV4s, and you remember the first one that I had and the second one that I had. The first one was the 2011 Biaggi edition, and the second one was the 2016. And as someone that had those two motorcycles and was an Aprilia fan, they were winning World Superbike, right? And they were always up front. And then they went into MotoGP and they stopped winning World Superbike. They stopped developing the bike. And as someone that I can't buy the MotoGP bike, right? But I can upgrade my RSV4. It wasn't at the top anymore, and it just started going backwards. Even though it was winning all the comparisons, right? But that's in road configuration. Once you took it to the track, it was too soft.
They go through a number of steps and commitments. So once they commit to World Superbike, they put the best people on it, and they develop that bike to its capacity. Once they stop doing that and focused on MotoGP, the development team basically is committed to the MotoGP team, and they want to make that thing successful. So they're not really so into the Superbike team as they used to be.
Yeah, look at Kawasaki. Kawasaki said, okay, we're going to go racing World Superbike. We're not going to do MotoGP. We're just going to do that one bike great. And that's exactly what they did. And even though in road configuration it's not a competitive bike, once you take it to the track and you do slight modifications on it, you see that it wins, most of club racing, national racing, and World Superbike. Not this year, but you see what happens when you're focused on one area.
I think most of the Japanese machinery that is made in a sport bike market is essentially capable of being raced in a good way if you spend enough effort on building it properly. So the European bikes have a slightly different approach, I feel. They have more accessories that they are interested in selling you right away, that are more into the competition sector. And the Japanese 600s or other bikes that they have are not being offered that way. So the Europeans are obviously trying to influence the buyer, entice him with more competitive items. So it's definitely different than it used to be that way, and it's definitely different than what the Japanese offer. So now they have a slightly better model, the top of the line sport model with better brakes.
They learn I think from the Germans as well. If you look at BMW, you can't go out and buy a BMW motorcycle with the price that's on the website, right? I mean, you got to start configuring that thing. It's just like a Porsche.
Yes.
And one time I said, okay, I'm going to get a Porsche because I'm getting older and I need something cool. And I looked up on the website and said $52,000, and I'm like, oh really? And I go to a dealership and it's more like $90,000, right? So it's the same with everyone's trying to squeeze out all the accessories and everything else that's gonna do the increase the margin.
Well, they don't have the volume. Like the Japanese bike makers sell small cc bike in Indonesia and India and places like that where they sell millions of them. It's a much bigger market and they make their money there. Plus, they have other industries that they're in. If you're Ducati or Aprilia has Piaggio that helps them, but if you're Ducati, that's your only margin unless you start building bikes in China and selling 150cc bikes in Indonesia. You have to make your money on the Panigales and the Scramblers, and there's only so many they sell here. I think 25,000 a year is their volume.
I think
and
also
Harley in their good days were selling to 50,000 a year, which is 10 times that number. And then if you Kawasaki or Honda, millions.
Yeah, I think the customer profile changed a little bit. It used to be when you wanted to get a liter bike, you used to come in for 12 grand, you'd get a Gixxer 1000, and you do stuff for it for like two grand, and then you go track days, or you go racing, or you just keep it on the street, right? But now the target audience, the bikes are so good that the target audience, if they want something for the street, they're going to get an adventure bike, right? And the people that get Ducatis and Aprilias and all those high-end 1000s, they're more interested in bling, right?
They want to get your coffee.
Yeah, they want the coolest thing out there. They don't care if it's the fastest, right? As long as Ducati put on their website, 258 horsepower, and you put it on a dyno, it's like 150 in the rear wheel, right? As long as it's on the website, people are going to get it, and they're going to go, oh, I got this. This is the best thing. It's so cool. Look at the bling, right?
Yeah.
It's a different audience than people that used to just spend the least amount of money to get the most amount of fun.
Yeah.
What I see on the street when I ride in the canyons, it's very seldom that a person on a Ducati was actually going to ride it hard. So then you see a whole lot of people with 1000 Japanese machinery, and they're riding the hell out of those things, and they're having fun. And the guys on the Ducatis, they're so paranoid about dropping it and abusing it. It's so expensive to fix. They seem a little reluctant to really crank it up. So that is my observation that I have had over the last 5-10 years. And it's been my observation really throughout my career that the Ducati street bikes I've ever seen were never really used all the way to their capability, and I never had the proper respect for them because of that. So,
and from my experience, even when people started using them to the full extent, it always means an hour and a half break in your track day because someone spilled some oil, right? It's always a Ducati that lives a line.
Yeah, and they're very expensive to prep for the track. I mean, the program Cal Wyman was running cost probably twice what other privateers were running on similar Japanese bikes, and they're hard to get.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have support directly from the factory and a direct line to them, there's parts you would never get. So it's a lot more exclusive. It's a lot more difficult.
Look at Baz, right? Look at Baz. Baz was fighting for his life in Motoamerica all year, and he didn't have the motorcycle under him, right? And they were doing everything they could to help him. But then he got a ride on a World Superbike, and he said it's a different level.
Yeah.
Right? It just from Motoamerica Ducati to a World Superbike Ducati, Chas Davis's bike, and he was fighting for the lead.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have Ducati behind you, you're not gonna get everything you can get out of those bikes.
Yeah, somebody told me once, and Kerry, you probably know that 10 times better than me, but the tuning window for a Ducati is very narrow. You have to get it right, and if you're off by a little, the bike is just unrideable.
Yeah, I can't really say how far unrideable it is, but I know that they have so many options and so many variations with their linkages and all these other aspects of tuning it that, yes, just like you said, it is very important for them to get it right on. So the thing that could be said about Baz's team from this year, this team is in development as well, and they're recruiting and utilizing people that are learning how to make this happen as well. So I think maybe this year will be better for them. I hope.
He's not around anymore. He went back to
right,
World Superbike.
but they're going to have somebody else fill in for him.
I wanted Elias to do it, but I think he's done. I think he's making shoes in Italy or something, whatever he's doing.
Well, they're talking about the one of the MotoGP guys, and I'm not going to say that right now because they're not done yet. So
okay,
I've heard some rumors.
Yeah, so hopefully they land him also, and it's talent is supreme.
Is it going to be Rossi?
No.
Is Rossi going to come in for a few rounds?
My statement is that talent is supreme, so it's always good to get the best talented rider on the bike.
Yeah, and make sure that rider gels with the bike, right?
That the team gels with tuning the bike,
Yeah.
and the rider's happy.
I think he's riding somewhere in the desert at some point, right? The guy we're talking about.
I didn't hear that, so I don't know.
Okay.
What did you hear? Tell me.
Petrucci.
Petrucci? Okay.
Yeah. He's doing the Dakar.
Oh,
Is he really?
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, on KTM. He's
Yeah.
going to go on in the
Ooh.
dirt. That's going to be awesome. I love the guy. He's such a nice person.
That other
When you
guy
see him.
that you have support for, the one you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
he's going to be riding the 600 and 200.
Okay.
He's going to be riding for that team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of the Dakar, did you see the new? I know this is a road racing podcast, but you see the new "quote unquote" Kijiva elephant from MV?
Oh yeah, the Lucky Strike.
Yeah, like it's
What
not
is-
like
what
a
is
strike,
Lucky
it's
Explorer.
like Explorer.
Lucky
yeah.
Explorer.
See,
Looks
if
like a good bike.
See, if you put a whole circle over the bike, it's Lucky Strike, and that's not allowed. But if you put half a circle with some lines, it's Lucky Explorer. You can advertise that.
I'm surprised they changed the brand. I guess they didn't want to lend the kind of exclusive road racing brand to the kind of dirt biking. I don't know.
And then the timing
interesting.
versus the Desert X, right, from Ducati.
Yeah,
So the timing is interesting.
they're doing some cool things. I like how they got this new Russian owners. Timur Sardarov is the CEO. The new bikes are beautiful.
Don't they have a Chinese engine now?
I don't think so. I mean, all the bikes have different parts, but there was like a big rumor at some point about them sourcing or building bikes in China. I don't think that's panned out. I think they're still, for certain models at least, hand-built actually in Schirana in Italy. But their models are just, you want to put it in your living room and just sit there and stare at it. I probably wouldn't ride
pretty.
it too. The Brutali, the Super Veloce, they're really beautiful bikes. Actually, Tony Elias apparently is getting an MV.
Oh, nice.
So we'll see. Again, we should probably delete these sequences from this podcast because we're not allowed to say these things. But he's going to collaborate with them. Then they're doing now these electric bikes, electric scooters. They did one really cool that looks like a Vespa.
Yeah.
That's an electric scooter. So they're trying to diversify. And I heard the China story came about when there was rumor they were going to build a low CC bike for volume sales and sell it in Asia.
Okay.
I don't know where that plan is, but it's not a bad idea. Why not? Everybody's doing it, and I don't think it degrades your brand if you have a kind of small displacement market segment that serves the rest of the world.
I don't know if you've ever been to India, but when you go to India, it's all small CC motorcycles over there and a few cars, right? But it's the amount of motorcycles on the streets of Bangalore would blow your mind.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I don't know how it would feel if I have a Ferrari and all of a sudden Ferrari made 1300 cc 3-wheel cars in India.
It's coming. Their SUV is coming, right?
Yeah, puro sangue.
Yeah, there you go. It's Ferrari they always been for racing, and every time you would buy a Ferrari, you would support the race team, right? But people like us took over everything, right? Business people, and we just need to just suck the dollar right out of everything. So if the Ferrari horse can sell SUVs, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's all about branding, right? It's I mean, yeah, you can, and also when you sell more, you have more money for racing, right?
Right.
So
And I think that's the smart point about if you have to go down market in a sense, you could do it under a different brand too, but then you expand your source of income and you get more funding for the racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we at? Should we finish? And we're at that
Yeah,
now.
well, an hour.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for the first episode of
Edge Grip Riders. No.
Riders?
Edge Grip Podcast.
Ah, come on.
I want to go on the track already.
The Edge Grip podcast. And I want to go to track too. So when can I do that, Carrie? You have my. No, I'm not going to put you on the spot. It's fine. It's fine. Don't answer that. So next week. Don't answer that. And Nabil, you're on the track pretty much every weekend.
No, once a month usually.
Once a month.
Yeah. Somebody has to work.
With your exotic MV.
Yeah, I love this bike actually. I mean, now we're running over, but it's
fine.
it really handles really well. It's tuned well. It's the 800 engine, so it's got enough power for me, and I'm still getting used to it. But surprisingly enough, knock on wood, it's been running, not leaking, behaving well.
So just for the listeners, he knocked on his head, because you can't do those things on radio and podcast and say knock on wood, and people don't understand that
they did not need that level of detail.
They need everything. They need everything.
Carrie has something to say about DMV.
I have a question for you. Trying to ask you, what is your favorite local track? What's the track that you prefer to be on here locally? We have Willow, Streets of Willow, we have Laguna, we have Fontana, we have Chuckwalla.
So it's a bit of a tough question to answer for me, because I go a lot to Auto Club, to Fontana. And I love it because it's an hour away. The garages are great. You have power. You have all that stuff. It's just a fantastic venue. And you can leave in the morning, come back in the evening. My second favorite would be Chuckwalla. I like the layout better, but it's just far. It's a whole enterprise just to go and come back there. Buttonwillow is like close second to Chuckwalla. It's got a nicer layout now that they repaid it. I haven't seen the new one. Looks very, very promising. I used to love. I started riding at Buttonwillow. I used to love it, and I crashed there.
Oh.
And I realized that the reason I got hurt so bad is that the runoffs are terrible. So, and I even saw a rider in front of me just get off the track, and all of a sudden he was fine. He was upright, slowing down slowly, and then he disappeared, and I saw his bike explode and him going in one direction, and he just went into a ditch.
Oh.
And I talked to the organizer. They said they have to have those ditches so the water runs around the track and doesn't undermine the soil underneath. But there's got to be a better solution, because I haven't gone since. It worries me that if I want to push and I'm going to get off track, it's unforgiving. But it's also a nice track and a nice layout. A lot of history there. Laguna was I haven't ridden it enough to have a really strong opinion about it. The only thing I'll say is, well, first, the weather's fantastic. The area is beautiful. But I got on there and I was ripping like from day one, without knowing the track almost. It felt so natural and so much fun to ride. It's probably the most fun track on the West Coast.
Agreed. Okay.
So, for what it's worth, not an expert by any means.
I'm a big Willow guy. So.
Well, I think that we have three different tracks that are very important to a rider's development. So, Buttonwillow is a track where you have to stay on line. It's a narrow track, and you must follow and stay. You've got to be very committed, and you got to stay on your line. You cannot. You don't have very many variations on your lines. Most of the turns have one particular apex approach, and you got to hit it, or you're off the track, or something. You have other problems. Go to Willow Springs, and what you have there is a wide racetrack, lots of room, and lots of blind high-speed turns. So getting developed and progressing with blind turns is a phenomenal advantage that we used to have over the guys back east. Mm. So anybody who would come out here, they would all be struggling with the blind turns back in the day. So I think that's a very good item to develop, to understand, your timing, where you come in, how you apex it, and all that other stuff. So the width of the track is also challenging, because you still have to pick your line. I mean, being that wide, maybe you don't really want to use all that width. Let's go to Laguna Seca. You have a lot of elevation changes. The track is wide and nice in most places. It has a couple of areas that are narrow. The track was obviously very old, but it's a fun track, and it has the elevation changes, and the blind turns are also partially there, and it develop you as a rider. You must adapt to all these conditions for you to be a very notable rider.
Yeah. What do you think of Chuckwalla?
Chuckwalla is a very nice track. I love what you said about it, and it's true. I have not spent much time there. I've ridden it both ways, and I do like it. The knock on Chuckwalla is that if there's too much time between your riding time and the previous riding time, there is a fine mist of I don't know if mist is the right
Sand,
word,
right?
but the little it's dust. It's really really fine, and you don't even see it. You don't know that it's there, and the only time it's really going to be an issue is when you go offline.
Yeah.
And then you're going to slide a little more than usual. So if you're committed and dedicated and you got your line straight and you're doing well, you probably don't have any issues.
Yeah, yeah. My impression of Auto Club is it's a very athletic track. Like if you want to practice point and shoot acceleration and braking, you won't practice braking in Chakwal. Let's put it that way. It's very flowy. Over there, you're gonna go from 170, 180 to like 35 in some places, if you can, and that's where you practice that. And also switchbacks are very challenging. I mean, last weekend we were there. There was a racer from France who came, and he got exhausted. He's like, "This is a very physical track to ride because you're constantly either accelerating hard or braking hard or switching back and forth. You don't have a lot of time to rest except on the straights, on a couple of straights, and that's it."
But I remember when I was riding behind you, you had perfect lines, like really perfect lines, and you did the rider development school with Fast Track, right?
Yeah, the academy, the Fast Track Academy.
Yeah.
That was a really good program. I mean, their coaches are world class there. You got Zemke is there, Elias is there, Ulrich was there. He was my coach. Who else? Eric Bostrom taught in that series I was there. They stopped it now, unfortunately, and I wish they would restart it. But they have a really cool rider development school. So if you're in the lower level, you can sign up for it, and it's like only $100 extra a day, and you're actually getting excellent coaching from very knowledgeable people. To me, I wish that was available when I started riding because that would have saved me a lot of bad habits. Sometimes you just need little basics: one, to know the track, and two, to like not make the obvious bad habits, and that thing does it. It's not as slow. It doesn't have all the big turns and so on, but it's got its own, I feel, way to develop rider. And people who are good there tend to do well on other tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that better than most because you raced there, right?
Yeah. It's and I also when I started riding on a track, the first thing I did was the Fast Track school. And back then, I think David Piles he owned Fast Track.
Right.
And then my instructor was, I think, a guy named Emilio Barnal I think it was Barnal. And
You're old.
I'm old, yeah. And that was one of the best things I've ever done. I mean, you read about things, and you buy Twisted the Wrist and Twisted the Wrist 2, and you sit at home and read that. Back then it was paper, and but then you come in on the racetrack and it's a different game, right? And first lap on the track, I ran off track, turn 9, because I was like, I'm king of the world, right? 2004 Yamaha R1 original tires. And I'm like, I can do this. And you can't really until you get, the proper technique and experience behind you. So, yeah, obviously I ran off track, turn 9, first lap, but then the rest of the day went smoothly.
Yeah. That's another thing this track is good for, is the runoffs are paved. So if you want to practice hard braking, like turn 5, turn 12, 11, 12, if you miss your braking point and you run off, you just keep going straight, go in the pits and come back, or you turn around in 5 and go get into 6 or even 3. You can just keep going straight. And you see a lot of people pushing actually, and they miss those turns all the time, but you know that they're pushing and they're kind of learning how to do that. And that's a lot better than being in the dirt.
I've seen some people go into the hail bale. What's it called?
Yeah. Bale Hills.
Bale Hills. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, those are not fun.
Yeah, I've seen people go in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where you put the bike on its nose, and the Gixxer, the K6 was never good on the brakes, and then I dropped it off here, and Kerry, you put pads on it and you put lines on it, and it was still fading, right? But the feel and the power behind the race pads, I would just, put the bike on the nose, just braking right at the cone, at the third cone, and then between the third and the second cone. And that was a bike with 200 horsepower, right? So you can imagine the speeds that you hit. I mean, fourth gear in the back straight. And it's an exercise of how big are your cojones, right?
Always in racing, that's number one.
Yeah, you have to push. That was Pridmore's feedback to me too. He's like, he was polite. He didn't say it that way. He said, you ride with a very big safety envelope around you. I'm like, I got to be in the office on Monday morning. He's like, that's okay. We can reduce it a little.
You know what? That was the same excuse that I used when I started jiu-jitsu, and I was like, I do software. I can't break my hand, right? I won't be able to type. Just do it. Just do it. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't spend time worrying about that. It will come to you sooner that way.
Yeah.
That's right. And actually, I mean, people don't know that when they start, but bikes ride better fast. I remember I have an R6 and the MV, and both of them, if you ride them at a certain slow pace, they feel like they don't turn, they feel very difficult, you feel like you're in danger all the time, and I'm struggling into the turns. And you get at least to a certain speed level. I'm not saying you're going to break records, but at a certain speed, they're just like butter. They're just cutting through these corners, they're doing what they're supposed to do at the speed they're supposed to do, and it's amazing. And so safe riding has a certain speed to it.
Yeah, because all those bikes are developed by riders that are way better than us, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing they used to tell me. Like, I'm getting worried that 5 degrees lean angle in the early days, and they're going, look, this bike can do a lot more than you can ever put it through. So don't worry, do what you need to do, and stop worrying about the bike being out of shape or anything of the sort. And that was good advice too.
Yeah, and now with the electronics, everything's so safe that you can ride your heart out, and the bike's just gonna do what it needs to do to stay on two wheels.
Yeah, I got to try these electronic things we keep people talking about all the time.
Except for the ABS. You don't want ABS, trust me. Oh, how many times I blew a turn because the RS4 ABS just kicked in and just got me offline.
I almost did that in Phillip Island, actually. The weekend where we met, Kerry, we came the weekend before and rode those S1000 RRs. And I have to say, this is a good bike, by the way.
Pridmore was there then.
Pridmore was there. I got on it, and it felt natural, like within half a session. Which is, it's not easy to adapt to a bike, but they had ABS. And you get this long straight, and it's like Laguna Seca. You don't see it for a bit, and then it just starts coming down, and you see where the turn is, and this is where you got to start figuring out where you brake. And when I started pushing, and all of a sudden the ABS started working, I'm like, oh my God, that's a fast... Luckily, it's a very fast right turn coming into it, so you can forgive a lot of mistakes. But you start getting scared because you're coming in at 180. The fast guys were going almost 200, I think, there.
Whatever the bike's capable of.
Yeah.
You hit it all, yeah.
Yeah,
and
but that was not a good feeling when you hit the brakes and all of a sudden the bike lets go.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. I think we ran out of...
Yeah, I know we should stop.
Yeah, we should stop. I'm not even sure it's recording. But we'll see.
113, it's still going.
It's going. It's going.
Yeah.
But now I have to go edit it and use Audacity or whatever it is, and then
be audacious.
Put it up there. So if you guys are listening to that, and we actually made it online, and you're listening on, I don't know, Google Podcast or iTunes, just leave a good review if you want. If you're not going to leave a good review, then we're going to find you, and then we're gonna. We're going to tickle you until you do. I'm just kidding. All right, guys.
Gary, thank you very much for hosting us and your amazing history and input. I mean, this is like the golden standard in motorcycling. If you ever want to learn anything, come here and sit around and look around for a few minutes.
You like that? Now you should look at me and say, Carrie Andrew, really? I'm like, it's like Don Rickles, telling the Sinatra story and stories, and then we're like, oh, Sinatra, and yeah, I'm friends with Sinatra, and nobody believed him, right? Until he came out on the Tonight Show, and Sinatra was the guest, right? It's the same with me and you. You know Carrie Andrew? Yeah, I do. we go way back.
Right, and we have him on the podcast because we're famous people.
Yeah. No, we just got him. We were lucky because I know him. But other than that, I don't think. We should go on, next time. We should bring Tom Cruise in. Let's see if we can.
Yeah, if Gary, you'll accept that.
Yeah. All right.
Let's see. Who was it? Well, you have Brett Harrelson, and you have there's one other guy that from the actors group that rides really hard.
John Wick.
No, besides him.
Oh.
Maybe a little before him. Anyway, I forget the scene, but he came by asking me for one of my bikes. So that was quite a while ago, but yes. But I know Brett Harrelson have built him a couple of good bikes. That guy hauls ass.
Usher rides too. I was at Ducati Beverly Hills, and he his bike was there for work.
Has he got a Ducati now?
He's got I think it's a blinged out monster. I don't know if he did anything different with it, but yeah, that was him. And who else rides?
A lot of people riding. Brad Pitt is riding.
Yeah?
Yeah. I remember the story where, remember that, what was that $60,000 Ducati? The MotoGP.
Desmosedici?
The Desmosedici. Remember that story where Tom Cruise wanted it and Brad Pitt wanted it, and they were sworn to secrecy that they're not going to tell Brad Pitt that Tom Cruise got his first, or was it the other way around? And, a lot of celebrities ride, and a lot of celebrities show up to MotoGP racers. Maybe they should start showing up to Motoamerica races and just, take action on their social media and just, be good influencers.
Right.
Right. So really, we need to finish because I'm running out of tape. No, I'm just kidding. It's not tape. It's an SD card. But thank you guys for listening. And this has been Gal Ratner and
Nabil Kabbani.
Thank you for visiting. It was a great time. Good to shoot the shit with you.
Thanks for having us.
Having fun with the legendary Carrie Andrew. Thanks, guys. Bye.